Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of False Reality Check. This is Buffalo Rambler,
And this is Legs.
and we have another great one for you today. We got to talk to our new friend, Evan McDermod from the Fifth Dimension podcast.
Yes, it's a great podcast if you guys haven't checked it out yet. He explores his story, his journey through spirituality, and interviews various guests that are specializing in their spiritual growth and ways to. I don't know, he's had people that meditate. I don't know, that give you tips on meditating
Yeah,
and
he's had
just
like nutrition people
nutrition. Yeah,
on.
nutritionist.
He's even had physics people on.
Yeah, just people that help with your growth
Yeah,
as a
as a human,
light being
as a human
and a
being,
human.
for sure. Yeah, he gives us a sort of insight into some of the coaching he does in terms of masculinity coaching, which is something I feel like we're lacking in the society. Masculinity, real masculinity, not what the TV man tells you is masculinity.
Yeah, it's a cool conversation, and we get into a little bit of his beliefs on teaching because he has a teaching background.
Yeah, he's actually a teacher,
He is a teacher.
like credentialed and everything.
He still offers his services through his website, donation based.
Yeah.
It's really cool. But what else do we cover? His spiritual journey, of course.
Definitely.
Talk about that.
We talked about his background. He's getting more connected with his Native American roots and his spirituality with the Great Spirit, of which the Native Americans believe that all is one in terms of nature and God. And I really liked getting his insight on that, especially because we have not gotten anybody on to talk about Native American type spirituality, which I'm very interested in.
Yeah, overall, it was a great conversation. Very positive. Like, this guy is just full of positivity and light. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
But speaking of spirituality,
Oh yes, we have a new spiritual show on Rockfin only that we're going to be doing every Sunday.
every Sunday, and it is called
The Sunday Wind Down, not Wind Down, even though everybody wants to pronounce it that way.
Wind
Wind Down.
Wind Down.
Yeah, we'll just be we'll be focusing on spirituality topics and personal growth. We may get some people on, some friends.
Yeah, we're in the future. We will have other guests join us, and hopefully get some listeners in too
For
into
sure.
the conversation.
Yeah, maybe we can have them call in or something.
Yeah, that's the overall goal for sure. But join us when you can in the chat, and once we get things up and running, we will definitely give you guys a heads up on how you can call in to our show and hang out and give us some of your intentions for the week or some positive stories. It's the whole show is just going to be geared towards setting you up right for your week to come and trying to keep things positive, trying to keep COVID and all this stuff in the news, conspiracy, trying to keep that out of this conversation.
Yeah. This is about you.
Yes. And also giving you an insight into us and our spiritual growth and our journey. So,
Not that we're experts or anything.
no, I don't know shit.
No. The more I learn, the more I realize I don't know.
Yeah. And that's okay. It's just a fun conversation. It's just going to be a fun conversation, positivity, and how we go about our journeys
Definitely.
and stuff.
And that's for Rockfin premium subscribers only. We may release some audio tidbits from time to time from that show, but we'll see how it goes. We just want to really get everybody's week started with a positive note. And I think if we start that, the way Ricky talks about on the ripple effect, if we start that, then people will have a better week. And then by virtue, everyone else will have a better week.
Exactly.
So,
Putting it out there.
yeah,
Okay, this intro has been long enough. Thank you for listening and enjoy our conversation with Evan.
for sure. Evan McDermod hosts the Fifth Dimension podcast, where he explores the deep story behind the interconnectivity of our false reality and the parts we play in this story. There is a disconnection we are all experiencing right now, and through spirituality and self-growth, Evan brings a wealth of knowledge to his listeners, of which we are. He is a teacher, coach, and strong spiritual being whose guests speak on various topics like health and medicine, spirituality, physics, and culture. It was a pleasure and honor to have Evan on and to make a new friend. Please welcome Evan McDermod, host of the Fifth Dimension podcast.
How's your day going? Thanks for joining us.
No, I'm very happy to be here and grateful that you guys invited me on. I'm doing well. Been a beautiful day. Certainly feeling very abundant, radiant. Had a great workout in, got some sunshine. Like it was a very productive day. So
Awesome.
feeling good, feeling ready to go. How about you guys?
Awesome.
Pretty
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Same here. We both worked our jobs, and I got a workout in before we talked today, so I feel good.
Right on.
I like to work out outside. Even though it was overcast today, still got a little bit of sun energy.
I was gonna say, it still peeks through the clouds. Just being outside, that's good enough, honestly. Especially moving and grooving the body out and about, can't beat that. So
For sure.
For sure. Yeah, I didn't get a workout in, but I wanted to. I got my
well, that's okay.
got my green juice. I was doing some overtime for work, and yeah, got to put that past me because I'm here now.
You're here now. It is what it is. Everything happened for the exact reason that it did.
Exactly.
Are you guys you're on the West Pacific time. Are you guys in California? Is that the state?
We are.
That's it.
We're in Southern California. Yeah, for now.
Beautiful.
We plan on moving soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I spent, I think it was about 7 months in Orange County, California. So
Okay.
I'm familiar with that part of it, but
Yep.
I can't imagine being there now just with everything going on. So kudos to you guys for sticking it out.
For sure. What part of Orange County?
I was in the Laguna Niguel area.
Okay.
My brother lived right over there. Him and his wife were there, and they're like, "Oh, you should come out and move to California." And I was like, "Okay." And I left pretty much as soon as the whole, I guess, pandemic, we can call it, started. I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm going back to the East Coast, but now I'm in South Dakota. So I end up all over the place. So
Right on.
Did you feel like moving to South Dakota because of all the freedom that they were
Yes.
having?
exactly, exactly. But it's beautiful because nobody wears masks. Nobody, it's very much life as normal unless you go on the internet or watch the news. And I don't watch the news, but I see what's going on the internet. But COVID is hardly a thing out here. I'll see a mask maybe once a week or so. But
Oh, wow.
I'm surprised you see it once a week.
I know.
Yeah.
We see masks on the floor all the time because
I was gonna say I'm not surprised being in California. I imagine what it is, especially with, I know you guys still have Newsom, so nothing's gonna be changing. But
No.
yeah.
what can you do?
No, yeah, the amount of just waste from the masks around us. Oh my god!
Oh
like
my
on
gosh.
my hikes, just everywhere. And then the kids are back in school, and of course they have to wear the mask.
Mhm.
And we live down the street from a high school and elementary school, so you know how kids are. They just throw their shit everywhere. So it's like the mass waste is just increasing now that kids are back in school. It's crazy.
Well, I think I saw it was like millions of masks every month are being polluted into the environment and the oceans, and it's like, okay, all of you environmental justice people, where are you? Come on,
Right.
so it's just unbelievable.
It's
But
crazy.
We're just trying to add to the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, folks.
yeah, there we go. You'll have the great mask garbage patch soon. It'll be its own
Oh,
entity
man.
that'll be created. But
That's terrible.
Oh, wow. I really hope that doesn't happen. Not putting it out there. Not putting it out there.
not putting it there. We don't want to manifest that. But
For sure. Man, I'm really digging that. Is it a blanket that's behind you? What is that?
it's a tapestry.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know exactly where it came from, but there's this local very conscious shop that sells a bunch of tapestries and crystals, and they have a bunch of different herbs and medicines. And I just saw this one actually probably about a week and a half ago, and I used to have a different one up behind me that I had for the last 8 months, but I just switched it out last week. This is the first podcast I've been on, including my own,
All right.
featuring it. So it's making its debut here
All right.
on this one.
Right on.
So
Well, I'm digging it.
Yeah.
awesome. I appreciate it very much. I feel like it encapsulates my vibe. So
Right?
it fits.
This just wolf. I don't know if it's a wolf. It reminds me of
I
a
think-
wolf warrior type vibe. I'm getting.
Yes. Well, I think it's so the tapestry is a lion, but it's funny that you say that
Okay.
because the wolf has been like my spirit animal the last couple of weeks as it is. Like it's been popping up anyways. So that wolf warrior vibe, I've actually really been feeling that. So
Awesome. I think
Nice.
a lot of us have lately.
yeah.
It's funny
No,
because
definitely.
I thought that was a lion, and you said wolf, and I
I,
was like, is it a wolf? I'm wrong, right?
Well, you, I guess multiple interpretations. You're both right because I've been resonating with the wolf, but it is actually a lion. So you
nice.
guys just both picked up on the
Yeah.
right energy.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like you have the heart of a lion, so that's why I thought it was a lion. So, I listen to your show, and I dig what you have to say, especially about masculinity and
Mm,
pushing the divine masculine along with the divine feminine. That we're seeing a lot of divine feminine going on right now,
right.
especially in the conspiracy community. Welcome.
Hmm.
uh,
Happy to be here.
but yeah, we're learning a lot, and I really appreciate the word you're putting out for men in general. I think we need it. We need strong, good, strong men. We didn't have that for decades, and it was
No, yeah.
materialism, consumerism, and we were given an image of man that isn't man. And
Yes,
and now I think we need to
exactly.
restore that.
I agree completely. It almost feels like I noticed I had that thought just the other day. It does seem like there's so many more women who are almost leading the charge, if you will, right now. And like
Right.
power to the women. Like I mean it's beautiful to see like that authentic feminine like power and like almost motherly like charge that's coming out, right? And there, I think there's true power within that, but at the same time, it's like, where are all the men? Like, where did they go? Like, what happened to the healthy masculinity? And it has been years upon years of conditioning and years upon years of almost demasculinizing. I don't know if that demasculate. I don't know what the right word is for that. The vocabulary
Emasculating.
doesn't have that one, but emasculating. Maybe that's what it is. But oh, through society, like we've been conditioned to I think men in particular to become more passive consumers and obedient and we've learned and been taught that masculinity in its essence is this unhealthy, toxic force. But I mean, really, I guess anything in excess is going to be unhealthy and toxic, right? We need that sacred balance of masculinity and femininity. And I saw within myself when I was younger, I used to be like very much in my feminine, right? Through college and through my upbringing, like I was in touch with that feminine side. And it's only been the last, I'd even say year and a half, 2 years where I've really stepped into the masculine portion. And it's been very liberating actually. So we do need more men to, I guess, embrace that, just fully step into it, like honor it, like feel it.
Yeah.
Like it's good to embrace the masculine portion of ourselves and let that strength come through because when that happens, the tides will truly turn. And I think it's beginning to happen, but time will tell what that looks like, I suppose.
For sure.
For sure.
Evan, how would you define masculinity? Like, what is that to you?
Mm.
That is a great question. I would say masculinity in its purest essence, it almost like if you look at like what's the father archetype, right? And like sort of almost like the emperor and like its strength, its protection, it's having self-assurance and the willingness to lead. I mean, I read this fantastic book about the four masculine archetypes that exist within men. The book is called King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, and I'm the author's last name is I want to say Mead. I don't remember his first name, but it's a fantastic book, and it really outlines the different elements that makes sacred masculinity and what makes healthy masculinity. And it's embracing the fact that we have our own inner kingdom to take care of, right? We have to be willing to be self-responsible, be self-reliant, and take care of ourselves so we can take care of others. And we have to be the warrior in parts and be willing to fight for what's right and stand for justice for ourselves and for others and for our community. And you know we have to be the lover archetype, right? We have to be willing to be at the same time gentle and compassionate and recognize you know how we can be empathetic and how we can you know be in touch with the feminine, because I think healthy masculinity isn't possible without healthy femininity as well, right? And I think the alpha male masculinity, quote unquote toxic masculinity that people talk about is this brute strength, this force, right? And I think a lot of that comes from boys not being initiated into manhood and trying to overcompensate for a lack of self-worth and for a lack of the ability to connect with that soft, empathetic side of themselves. And, we really need to integrate all of these different portions and recognize the totality of who we are within ourselves. And that is what really makes healthy masculinity the healthy masculine. I mean, if we look at the world leaders today, right? How many of these people are actually like healthy masculine? Like I would say probably none. I mean, but it's because they're constantly they lie, they manipulate, they abuse and really gaslight on a collective level. And that's not what a healthy leader, like a healthy masculine man would do to himself or do to others, right? So, it's really, I think healthy masculinity, like masculinity in its purest essence is that strength, that protecting, that nurturing, like the combination of all of them, and just being in touch with nature in the natural process of that, right? I mean, there's sacred masculine roles that we need to honor and embrace, and just be willing to grow and expand constantly, and I guess not limit ourselves into what we think masculinity should be, and just sort of embrace what it is within. So
I'm so glad you mentioned that adolescence, that
mm,
I feel like a lot of these politicians are still at that adolescent phase. And
yeah,
I would say the same for people that have they're proponents of the toxic masculinity theory, that too much masculinity is bad, and they
mhm,
equate that with like things like rape culture or sexual abuse, which if you're a man, we don't do that. Men don't do
right,
that. That's somebody that's arrested in adolescence does something like
yes,
that. Somebody who doesn't know their limits, somebody who doesn't know what's right from wrong, and doesn't
mm,
and wants to possess rather than create with someone else. And I
right,
think that I'm so glad you brought that up. It just I've talked to you about that with your coworkers, where they female coworkers that are talking about, oh, we didn't get along, so we broke up with, they're like
mm,
this, they're like that. And not to toot my own horn, but they seem like, from what you mentioned to me, and maybe you talked me up to them, I don't know, but they're like, wow, you're really lucky. And you know something you mentioned to me, well, you guys are dating boys,
Yeah,
you need to date
mm,
men.
that's what I told my coworker. Always constant problems with her guy, and I'm like, well, you're dating a boy. You're not dating a man, you
yep.
know?
And we have an epidemic of boyhood,
Yes.
like disguising as men. And
Yes.
it's interesting because if you look at a lot of the indigenous cultures, there was always initiation ceremonies into manhood. And we don't have any sort of initiation process for our boys today to grow into self responsibility and reliance. You almost need to, I mean, you really have to seek it out yourself and find mentors and find and like want to actually grow. But that
Yeah.
that stage is not set. Like it's not. We don't have that as a like we've really strayed away from that just as a culture and society. And I think that's what's causing a lot of the problems. Like they probably were dating boys who were stuck in their 12-year-old mindset, right? And I think that's really the problem we have as a society, because the what we see at the collective level is just very much a macrocosm for the collective unconscious, right? That's why it all manifests as it does, because that's where people are at. So people gravitate to these boyhood politicians, or even, uh, we wonder why there's a flux of relationship issues across society, or the flux of domestic abuse, and all of these different things that are going on a collective level. It's just the state of individual awareness for most people. And so, and it's kind of sad that that's just where people are at. So I think it's, people like us, we kind of can see this, and we can help create space to open, you know, people who are in boy psychology. And it's a, I don't say that with judgment towards those people. Like, that's where we were at. A couple of years ago, I probably was in a 15-year-old adolescent mindset without consciously realizing it. So, how can we create space for that and allow the process of initiation? And what does initiation into manhood look like? Like, I mean, it's going to be different for everybody, but I think that's a real worthy conversation to have, and like set a framework for that for men in our culture today. And how can we bring that about and create a more healthy society? Because I think it would do wonders for a whole lot of people.
Definitely. I was going to ask you, what do you think the initiation would look like in your,
Mm,
if you could plan it?
yeah.
And
Is this
it,
something that would have to happen like right age 5 when you're a boy, or is
Mm.
it
well, I
sooner?
would
Or
Or a
say,
process.
yeah,
I think it's a process. And I
okay,
think what it is in a lot of like indigenous cultures, they did let children be children, and they learned the lessons along the way. But there were, in many of these cultures, they talked about there was a time where the boy must die and the man must be born. So they would have these, a lot of times, I mean, if you put it in modern context, they'd be probably call it like child abuse, some of the types of stuff that they used to do.
yeah,
So I mean, I don't think we have to go to certain levels and extremes, but there almost needs to be that death process, right? And we need to actually be willing to let go of the identity of the boy within us. How can we meet the boy's needs? Well, we can build up a strong self-esteem, strong self-worth, positive affirmations, and really can, if we look at the four archetypes again, and I would encourage anybody listening to actually like go and buy that book and read that book. Look at the inner domain and where are our actual needs, like as men. Like, how can we live a life that's fulfilled? Let's build up those qualities within our boys, so when the time comes that the boy needs to die and the man must be born, it's not some, I guess, strikingly difficult process. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of death in that, and we fear death. Like that is the number one fear in our society that permeates, I would say, and underpins a lot of the conditioning and challenges we have as a society. But how can we allow that death process and that rebirth happen? I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways to do that. I don't know if I have an exact scenario I could play out from off the top of my head right now, but I think we need to explore that and explore what death means in that sense, and really allow everybody to explore that and become, um, allow that concept to be born within them, and so they can really feel that. So
definitely. Yeah, that is similar to the spiritual journey that I'm on right now. Like
mm,
can be said, I sort of had to, my old ways had to die. My old self had to die. And I'm
yeah.
coming into my new self currently.
Mm,
Some people reach that through a crazy mushroom trip where their
yeah.
ego just completely dies. Some people reach it through nature, and tripping on mushrooms, which is kind of like me.
Goes hand in hand. Goes hand in hand. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's kind of how I came to that conclusion, where death is, there's no fear. Like, I have no fear of death. I know there's more to this
Mm,
than this biological form.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, like back in the day, they used to, like you said, they would do things that would now would be considered child abuse.
Yeah.
Probably, like giving your kid a sharpened stick and saying, "Go out in the woods, and if you come back, you're a man."
Right.
And they used to do that, and it used to be so much more difficult for boys to become men. That right now, where we're at in society, and I wouldn't say that men are all weak. We're not weak. We just haven't found our true purpose yet.
Yes.
And I think that what we need to do is kind of modernize this, and we can honor shamanistic roots. We can honor the indigenous roots. We can make it a physical journey as well as a spiritual journey. But the spiritual has to lead the physical. And I
Mm,
would I would definitely throw some psychedelics in there, probably plant based medicines, and I would definitely put a physical feat in front of them, making sure that they have to make something out of themselves and prove their worth. And I think by proving their worth to themselves, that little boy realizes, I'm not a boy anymore. I can do this on my own.
Mm.
And that's what we need. We need something that does that.
Absolutely. And I think that's why so many people today are gravitating towards plant medicines and, the shamanistic cultures and really engaging in that side. Like I've had my share of mushroom journeys and acid trips, and, I've engaged now in new different plant medicines that are not like psychedelic in nature, but there's hape and there's using cannabis as a very ritualistic sense and tapping into sort of the gifts nature gives us, but willing to go inward and ask the questions of like, who am I beyond name and beyond job and identity and all of these sort of external conditions that this society has placed on me? How can I define myself outside of the role that was quote unquote given, outside of how I was branded by this world? And how can I come to sort of a conscious knowing of that role within myself, right? And really make that the forefront of education, make that the forefront of like of who we are. Like we're so much more than what we're told we are. And I think a lot of people are starting to come to that realization. A lot of the people who are questioning the narratives in all of society right now, uh, that's like, for me, that's the process of self exploration is what actually has led to me seeing the external realities of the world and being like, this doesn't add up, this doesn't make sense, let's actually talk about some truth here. Like let's go deeper into these subjects. And but I had to have my own conscious understanding that what I was told about myself, the foundation of myself, was not who I was, and I was much deeper than that. And I think that's the initial step into sort of an initiation process, or it's this step into manhood. It's those defining of who we are and knowing our foundation within us, and that we are infinite and eternal beyond just death. And it's interesting because I there's multiple times where I thought that I had conquered my fear of death, and then it came back, in a new form. It got a little, there was a little deeper. I was like, oh, wow, there it is again, right? And I was hiking out in the Badlands probably about a month and a half ago, and I was very close to falling off. Like I actually needed help from one of my friends who was there and like to pull me up. And I had that moment of like, man, I'm not ready to fall down this ledge and just go. I mean, it wasn't like I was hanging by. It wasn't some super dramatic scene, but there was great potential for me to potentially get injured or possibly die. And I was like, okay, that was a little bit of a reality check. And just the other day, I had this dream where it was like I went back through all of previous incarnations and I felt so much death and chaos and all. And I was like, wow, that was very liberating. I felt like I needed to experience that death. It was tremendously painful within the actual dream, but when I woke up, I felt so alive. I was like, wow, like I can breathe. Like this is kind of cool. And it is so kind of continually experiencing that death process and be willing to, even when we step into our authenticity and into manhood and the process of self-development, never really stops. Like it kind of just keeps going deeper and deeper, which is it's the infinite nature of it. And I think that's another a recognition that the fear is going to be there, but what are we going to do with it when it arises? I think that's one of the most important markers of what separates somebody who is in the child like mindset psychology, or they're going to be responsible and an adult and actually take care of what they need to take care of despite maybe the fear or what's going on in the external world.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, definitely developing the concept of who you are as a
Mm.
person is a big part of this journey, and coming into your authentic self is a big part. And we're so bombarded by the materialistic world on a daily basis. I mean, where we're at, anyways, it's just like billboards on billboards, you know,
Yeah.
ads on ads, and it gets tiring sometimes. But you have to maintain your sovereignty. You have to figure out how you can be more independent and get out of this system, because right now a lot of us are so dependent on it. We don't know what we're capable of and what we can become. And by taking those chances and just dropping your job and moving completely out of state, you're gonna learn who you are real quick if you don't know already. But
Exactly.
yeah. How have you maintained your sovereignty in these
Mm.
crazy times?
That's another good question. I mean, I would say it's just by trusting in what my heart is telling me to lead me forward. What is spirit telling me? I know that I am infinite and eternal beyond this life, right? So how can I move forward despite the external circumstances? Like, yes, I'm going to face societal pressure. Yes, past friendships and maybe even family relationships might crumble, and some of them have. And that's okay. I can't sacrifice my own sovereignty, my own divinity for any external illusion, any external story that I know is false. What is that going to do for my own, for, me in this moment? Is it going to provide comfort? Maybe, but do I want to live by comfort? If we choose to define ourselves by comfort in the material world and the external world, it's really just a mask to run from our true selves. It's really just a way to distract ourselves from the true nature of who we are, and to to really shy away from the spiritual journey, from the hero's journey that we are all on. Right. I firmly, like, I was gonna say believe, but I know that we are here because we chose to be here, like that we signed up for this in a sense, and this is a test of our sovereignty. Like, what are you willing to do to maintain your own personal liberation? And I mean, for me, that is death. Like, I am so committed to my personal sovereignty and liberation that I'm okay with physical death to maintain it. And, that's, I don't know if everybody's at that point, and it's okay if you're not, but there's nothing that I would be willing, I wouldn't be able to live with myself at this point, with everything that I've learned, everything that I've done. And just by going on the inward process and trusting that it will work out for me if I stick to my heart, because it always has. Like, I've, even in this moment where there is crazy collective chaos, I can sit here and I can look around and I could say, everything's okay. I'm not in immediate danger right now. And if I were in immediate danger, I would respond accordingly. But until that time comes, I just need to continue on my path and go with the flow of whatever is transpiring. Right. And just the willingness to keep asking the questions and keep going deeper and keep showing up for the uncomfortable and holding space for the shadow, I think, is incredibly important, because we're only able to see what's going on in the external world, the deepest, the darkest shadows, some of the pure evil that you could call it, right? We're only able to see it because we know it exists within ourselves as well, because we're part of humanity at large. So, how can we hold space for ourselves and recognize that we are all one interconnected being, humanity? And I'm not going to hold judgment for where anyone is at. I'll speak truth, and I'll speak, you know, and walk, I guess, walk to the beat of my own drum, if you will, and really maintain my own individual liberation, and not be persuaded by false prophets or false stories or any of the material world nonsense. But I just going to keep marching forward and maintain sovereignty. And that is what gives me fulfillment. Like, if I wasn't maintaining sovereignty, if I wasn't making choices that weren't in that direction, I wouldn't be fulfilled. I wouldn't feel liberated. I would feel like something is missing. And I've lived that life before. So why would I go back? It's just the continual unlearning and relearning and growth process, I would say, is how I maintain it. And just the willingness to keep diving into the unknown and keep my heart and mind open and malleable, because there's so much that I still don't know. so much for me to still uncover and heal and learn, because we all have blind spots, but just accepting that and going with the flow, I think, is the key to sovereignty. And once you really get into that process and become more comfortable with the uncomfortable, your sovereignty will only be gone if you choose to release it yourself. So, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree. I've been following synchronicities.
Yes.
I've been noticing a lot of them in my life, and I've just been following my heart on what's right with them, and things have been working out for
Right.
sure. It's really beautiful. And we both of us we practice abundance in our
Mm,
life, and yeah, I can't stress that enough, everyone. But
yeah.
scarcity is not real. There's no
Right.
such thing. Abundance is real, and we that's one thing I wish in school we were all taught right
Right.
off the bat,
Right.
right?
Absolutely. And I definitely come from a scarcity conditioning. So that's
Same.
been one of the most difficult, I guess, integration processes for me. I mean, even let's say a few months ago, there were still scarcity blind spots that were preventing me from really tapping into what is my birthright of abundance. Like, we are meant to be abundant. We are meant to have true, I guess you could say, spiritual wealth and fulfillment in all aspects. And it is just our own programming that really prevents that. And if we open ourselves up to it, like, the universe will respond, like the opportunities will present themselves really to you. And I've been following the synchronicities as well, especially the past month or two, in the amount of growth, abundance, like knowledge, all of it that's flowed in has been remarkable. And it was from some sort of simple recognitions of blind spots that I still had, and limiting self beliefs about scarcity and abundance that I still had. So, I mean, that's another one I think that is sort of, once you get to a certain point, you can really recondition yourself to be abundant and tap into that. Like, that is so key, because a lot of people, I think, one of the essences of this matrix system is the scarcity mindset, the scarcity worldview. And it's such an illusion, because we have everything provided for us here on earth. Like, the earth gives us everything to sustain and be fulfilled. And we just need to almost return to that, return to our roots in that sense.
Definitely. I think part of the abundance thing too is when you have the ability to share, you share, and when you can't share, you kind of put your mind out, your eye out to the universe, and you put your hands up, and sometimes your hand will be filled. But you have to really work on yourself, do the things that you were discussing, which you've been discussing, and you have to keep that in mind. Always keep that light going. And something that you said earlier about following your heart, and I try to follow my heart. I know you've been seeing all the synchronicities in our life, and it's always hard for people that came from. I mean, I could say I was like a sheep, you know. I
Hmm.
believed in all the nonsense, and it's always hard, and you want to second guess yourself.
Yeah.
So how can you keep on like a truer path and really know that you can trust where you're going? You can trust your heart.
Mm. I think it all comes down to how much self love and, self worth do you have for yourself truly. I mean, I get in, I've been in the past, it's easy to second guess or question, but it's like, okay, but let's question that questioning. Where is that coming from? Is that me seeking external fulfillment, right? Because we are tribal beings. Like, we're meant, like, in our nature, when we were ostracized from the tribe, oftentimes, like, that would mean death, because we only had our communities of our immediate people. So if we were doing something that was detrimental to the tribe, like to our collective community, when humans especially were in the hunter gatherer stages and early civilizations, that would mean we would die, right? So it's really programmed into us to have that external feedback, to have that external confirmation that, oh yeah, what you're doing is right. So it can be really difficult to receive criticism or be on the path where you aren't in the majority, or so it appears you aren't in the majority. And it's it I would say one of the essences of this system is to create the false illusion that you are alone. And a lot of times when you go on this spiritual path and you question things and you search out truth, it can be really easy to feel alone, because a lot of times the people immediately around us may not be on that same path. They don't have that same sort of understanding. But as long as we is if we can build up enough self-trust and self-love to just keep going, that tribe, that conscious community that we've always been seeking, it starts to manifest itself around you. Like, you really can open yourself up and, inspire maybe others directly in your community. One of the beauties of technology, I mean, we could speak all day about the the problems with it, but one of the beauties of it is you can create conscious community online, right? And you can have people from all walks of life. Like, we're sitting here talking from a couple different time zones, but yet we're on this same journey, and we can very much resonate with one another and share abundant energy, unconditional love, right? So the conscious community is there, and we just need to open ourselves up to the fact that if we decide to speak our truth, if we decide to move forward in this process, those who are meant to be around you will be around you. Like, they will be there. If you speak your truth and people stick around, well, that's a sign that they resonate with what you're saying. It takes a lot to for some people, it takes a lot to really, um, I guess, look at another perspective and understand it, because we're not taught to. It's a paradox, because we supposedly live in a very tolerant society, but it's only a tolerance for those who fit within the conditions of conformity, right? So when we step outside those conditions of conformity, there are going to be people who push back against that, and that can feel like it's uprooting us. Like, it can feel like we are going against the world or the tribe. But we have to, if we know in our hearts something is true, we have to, I guess, love ourselves enough to really stand by that and really stick to the truth. And you know it's not easy. Like, it's we're not we said, our schooling, our education system, it doesn't practice self-love. It doesn't teach self-love. We don't have that foundation for a solid self-worth and understand who we are at our core. So, I mean, it takes a lot to go down that path. And there's going to be days where it doesn't feel worth it, but just keep going and trust that your resilience within it continues to grow as you go along. So it's really a, a never ending journey in that regard, too. All of these journeys are infinite in their nature. So,
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, yesterday we got to be a part of One Day of Brightness. Lindsay from Rogueways put an event on, and people from all over gathered. It was done virtually, but we all felt this connection of love. There was a healing session using sound frequencies during it, and that was my first time experiencing something like that, and it did heal me. Like, I did feel, even though Chance, who was doing it from Interverse, he was another part of the country, the vibrations were still coming through. We were all connected that day, feeling the love, feeling the vibration. This conscious community, we are there. Like, we do exist, and
yes.
that was one of the synchronicities that I've been noticing lately. Is I've been connecting with people like you and Lindsay and other people in our community, that we're not crazy. We're all on this same journey to
Yes.
finding our truest self, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I love this community.
Yes. There's nothing like it, honestly. And I'd say the beauty of, like, the technology, it almost serves, I don't even think it's the technology that is connecting us. It just serves as the platform, the reminder that we are all interconnected, and that energy is transmutable throughout the whole globe to one another, like in the means of just like because we're all one interconnected being. And so we don't need to feel alone when we have the foundation of ourselves because we know we're connected to the whole and that others are out there and the numbers are growing. Like it's amazing to look at who I was connected with, let's say 1 year ago versus today, and how much my own like personal circle or tribe has expanded just based on those same principles of unconditional love and openness and really growing together. And it's such a beautiful time to be able to step into that and just allow it to continue to expand, because if it keeps expanding at the rate that it has within the past year, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like, let's say next year or 10 years from now. Like I feel like we're really planting the seeds of this new way of being for like a new earth for us to all become more self-aware and conscious together. And what that looks like, I don't exactly know, but I can feel it, so I know what it feels like. And so I feel like we can make it a reality.
I think so.
Yeah, definitely. This is they try and make the new world order. There is going
Yeah.
to be a new world, but it's not going to be under their order. That's for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. No, exactly. And it almost feels like the duality of it, right? The fact that it is happening, like it almost feels necessary, like it was like all of the new world order and all of the technocratic agenda was necessary for us to recognize the part of ourselves that we have always been ignoring, right? It was the catalyst for this awakening. All of these illusions that are being thrown in front of us, if they weren't there, would we have awakened to the degree that we have and be able to build this, I would say, higher consciousness uh, community and come together like we have? I don't know if we would have, because we needed that catalyst, we needed that spark. And now people are starting to recognize and ask those deeper questions. And we'll have, and it's entirely possible that the new world order is going to keep doing its thing, and they will have their own little section of earth that they run in their technocratic agenda, right? Whatever, I don't know. But at the same time, it is like you can't kill consciousness, you can't kill higher consciousness, you can't kill truth. And so even if that exists, this higher frequency of living will exist simultaneously with it. Like that new earth that we're talking about, it's already here within us. Like it's already here, we just have to choose to set our vibration to it and then live in alignment with it. And because our perception creates our reality, we will manifest that into the physical around us. So,
Oh, that's
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, I was just talking to you yesterday about COVID and how, in a way, I am thankful for it because it pushed me out of, like, 2 years ago, the thought of being miles away from a hockey arena and not being able to see hockey, I could
Mhm.
not, I couldn't even think of that. Like, I had to be near an arena, I had to be near
Yeah.
concert venues, you know?
Mhm.
And then COVID hits, all that gets taken away from us. And guess
Right.
what? I survived. I learned that I don't need that stuff in my life and I'm better off without it. And I was able to grow even more into myself without it. So, in a way, COVID, thank you for New World Order. Thanks for coming around.
Good looking out.
Right. Right. They're giving us this great catalyst, this great opportunity. And I think that's how we really need to view it. I mean, it's easy to get lost in the fear narrative of it. But my philosophy is the New World Order doesn't care what we're afraid of, whether it's of a virus or of them. Like we're still in fear, right? So it's like if we're still in fear, we're still gonna act from fear. So let's let's feel what we need to feel, process the emotions. It's like, okay, I understand where that fear is coming from, but let's transcend that. Let's use that fear to create this higher conscious of living, this higher standard of living, and really discover ourselves, right? We don't need to fear ourselves when we know that we're infinite and eternal, right? What is there to fear? We're infinite and eternal beyond death. Like just that in itself, it's like, okay, so it doesn't you could say it doesn't matter. It obviously does matter to a certain level. We can't just take the nihilistic worldview in the sense, oh, none of it matters. We're infinite and eternal,
Yeah.
whatever. But it really puts it into perspective, and we can really view it as the opportunity that it is to grow and evolve and take solace in just doing our best. I mean, I'm sure both of you would agree with me in this sense that I would love to be able to snap my fingers and have everything fixed on earth, have everything healed. Like, right? I try and think of the magic pill solutions all the time, but there is no magic pill. We all just have to do the best we can, and everybody has to go through their own healing journey, right? And maybe there does need to be a little bit of a rapid expansion of that, like that, and I think that's happening. But the process will go as it goes for the sole reason that it's going as it's going. Like, we can't necessarily control that. We can only be ourselves authentically and live in alignment and just trust, have faith, go with the flow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost feels like these days two different societies are forming,
Yeah.
and we're branching off. But in the end, whether it's in our lifetime, I don't know. I think it'll come together. Like we will come together and to build this new earth. Um, but as of right now, it does suck to see just this divide that's being created. And I'm where you're at right now. I don't know if you're in a heavily. It doesn't seem like you're in a really heavily populated area. So
No, I'm not.
yeah,
I'm not. There's a few thousand people in my town, so I
for
mean, there's
sure.
there's not a ton. But and it's interesting because like the divide, I'm a believer because we're in that interconnected humanity, right? Division really only exists when we choose to participate in it. Like,
Exactly.
so if somebody is in the mask vaccine cult, like, okay, I still love you unconditionally. Like, I had a practice somebody recommended to me where I hold up a picture of Bill Gates, right? And I look at it and I say, I love you. Thank you. And I got to tell you, that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I still struggle with that. I wouldn't want to do that at all. But to deny anybody love is to deny aspects of ourselves love, right? And so we can't really play into the whole divide and conquer mentality because then we're just playing into the illusions of their game anyways, right? So it's just dropping the need for there to be a divide and just I'd love to move into the time where we're locking hands as a humanity, singing "Kumbaya" by the fire, and really, becoming self-reliant, independent, raising consciousness on the path of growth, and just being. Right? Like, what do we need to do? We don't need to do anything but be ourselves. So, just allowing that to birth itself, and it to take it back to what we were talking about earlier in terms of psychology. It feels like I think humanity is in its adolescent stages where, this is the initiation, right? We're in the initiation here and now. Are we going to step up into the initiation process and actually take the responsibility? I don't know. I certainly hope so. I'm choosing to. You are both choosing to. Will enough people choose to? I'd like to think so. I think we can make it happen. Is it going to be difficult? Is it going to be painful? Absolutely. It already is. And it's only going to get more painful. I mean, that's what the initiation process is. And, there will be people who choose not to engage in it. And that's okay because that's their path and that's their choice. But, the time is now for us to recognize that we are in the 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 time where humanity in its adolescence must die and be reborn. Like the death and rebirth process is right here, right now, like in our face. So we just have to open our eyes to it and feel it and recognize it because that's really all it's asking for. It's integration of the shadow, integration of the darkness. And, that's how we grow. That's how we grow up. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
We are in our adolescence. I like that
That's
a
so
lot.
perfect.
Yeah.
It's so true. We're all just
yeah.
learning how to be adults. I feel, when
Yeah.
I was a kid, I thought, man, all these adults have everything figured out. Now that I'm an adult, I realize like everybody's just winging it.
Oh, yeah.
No one knows what's going on.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's just doing their best.
Right.
And
Exactly.
it's such a revelation to like be on the other end of that, I guess, initiatory phase where I
Hmm.
was a kid and now I'm an adult, and it's like, huh, I guess, it's okay to not know anything. It's okay to
Exactly.
to be completely lost. We're all kind of lost.
Yeah, and when I first started this spiritual journey, I was so my old way. I'm like pretty OCD, and I'm like working on it,
Hmm.
and I always have to like map things out, and I was like, okay,
Plan.
plan, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, am I doing this right? Am I meditating right? Do I need to say this prayer? It's
Hmm.
when spirituality is what you make it, it's everyone's process, everyone's individual process. And it's come, it's taken me a while to realize that. But yeah, that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Is
It's
that
the
realization?
continual unlearning, the continual recognition of the conditions as they are, and the willingness to grow through them and actually like not just feel them but choose to heal them, right? I mean, the healing process, I mean, unless you're on a powerful psychedelic, a lot of times it isn't immediate. Like even with like like mushrooms or something, the the trip reveals what you need to see, but then it's up to you to integrate it, right? Then it's up to you to actually make those conscious changes, right? And I think that's the learning curve we're on right now. We're like, I'm at a point personally where I still recognize where I have I want to fall back into old patterns, or I want to feel like bad about myself for some silly thing. And it's like, why would I actually want to do that? It's just because it's what was conditioned into me. It's what the stories my mind used to thrive off of, right? And the mind is always looking for ways to interject and come to sort of a rational understanding of the world. Like that's why it's there. But a lot of times the stories we tell that the mind tells us were conditioned to, I guess, keep us stuck in our illusions, stuck in the boyhood, because we didn't have that proper exploration from childhood to explore the world as it is. We're put in the box right away. So, it's just about the willingness to grow and unlearn. And, I myself, I come from an education background now, and I don't think I can ever teach in a public school again, because I think kids can learn more from going outside and climbing a tree. Like, that's better than sitting at a desk for 6 hours. So, you know building that foundation for the self, really, like, who am I? What are my old stories? It's okay that they're there. What are my conditions? It's okay that they're there. How can I move forward and rewire them? And that's the essence of the journey, and it's beautiful to partake in. Like, I'm so grateful for it, and I'm sure I can tell both of you guys are grateful in this journey as well, because it's truly beautiful in a lot of ways when the world opens up to you, when you're willing to unlearn and relearn and just experience as the world is and who we are, like, fully.
Thank you for listening to the False Reality Check podcast. There's many ways to support us, but please subscribe to us on Rockfin.
Yes, Rockfin is only $9.99 per month or $99 a year, and you get our premium content, our live streams, and other great content from the free thinking community, MMA, comedy, so much good stuff on there.
And you can throw us a couple of dollars for tip if you'd like.
Yes, please. We would love that.
You can also find us and all of our content on falserealitycheck.com. You can find our podcasts at anywhere podcasts are found: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, or again, go to our website, falserealitycheck.com, for our RSS feed.
Yes, we're also on Twitter and Instagram at FRC Pod.
And we're at Gab and Float at False Reality Check. But don't feel like you gotta reach out to us there. You can also reach out to us through email at frcpodcast@protonmail.com. We tried our best to answer and read all of our emails from fans, and we love you guys for reaching out to us.
Yes, thank you, listeners, and keep listening.
Definitely. Check us also out. You can reach out to us on Telegram. We're also on Telegram at False Reality Check.
Yes, I think that's it.
Alrighty.
Until next time.
Peace.